Cristiano Ronaldo walked off the pitch while opposing fans chanted one word, one name, Messi. Not Portugal, not Ronaldo, Messi. And suddenly what should have been a routine draw against Congo stopped looking like a football result and started looking like something much bigger. Because this wasn't supposed to happen. Not here, not now, not in a moment that had been built almost perfectly for Cristiano Ronaldo. Just days earlier, Lionel Messi had done it again. Another historic performance. Another reminder that somehow, after everything, after 2 decades of arguments and records and endless comparisons, he was still producing moments people thought should not exist anymore. And then came Ronaldo's turn. The expectation was obvious. 41 years old, another international stage, another chance to answer back, because for almost 20 years that has been the story. Messi does something, Ronaldo responds, Ronaldo rises, Ronaldo creates another moment. That was the script everyone expected. Instead, Portugal drew 1-1 against a team that had spent decades away from football's biggest conversations. And that was only the beginning, because the scoreline looked strange, but the performance looked worse. And once people started looking at the numbers, things became uncomfortable very quickly. 25 touches, 3 shots, 0 on target, a tiny expected goals number, not just a bad game, not just an unlucky night, something else. Because football fans can forgive a missed chance, they can forgive a bad result, they can even forgive a superstar having an off day. But they struggle to forgive something far more dangerous. When the team starts looking worse because of the superstar, and suddenly people were replaying moments from the match over and over again, not goals, not assists, moments, small moments, moments that looked harmless at first, until they didn't. There was one attack where Portugal had numbers forward. The defense had shifted. A teammate was moving into open space. It was the type of situation Portugal usually turns into a goal. Instead, Ronaldo held it. Then another touch, then another, then the chance disappeared. Later it happened again. Another promising move, another situation where the obvious decision appeared to be a simple pass, but again the play seemed to slow down around him, again the attack died, and suddenly people started asking an uncomfortable question. Was Ronaldo chasing Portugal's success, or was Portugal chasing Ronaldo's moment? That question changed everything. Because now this wasn't about finishing ability, this wasn't about age, this wasn't even about statistics. Now people were questioning the entire structure of the team. And when those questions begin, football becomes brutal, because once fans start seeing something, they can't unsee it. Then came the reactions, and this is where things started escalating fast. Thierry Henry reportedly questioned whether Portugal were becoming too dependent on protecting Ronaldo instead of maximizing the team around him. Then came comments connected to former players and pundits questioning the same thing. Not whether Ronaldo remained great, nobody was arguing that. The argument was different, much worse. People were asking whether greatness from the past was now becoming pressure in the present. Think about how strange that sounds. One of the greatest players in football history becoming a tactical problem. That almost feels impossible. Until you start looking closer, because Portugal do not lack talent, not even close. They have pace, creativity, midfield control, young players entering their peak years. On paper, this should be one of the most balanced squads in international football. So why did they look hesitant? Why did attacks feel delayed? Why did moments seem forced? Why did everything appear to orbit around one player, and then attention shifted toward another name, Roberto Martinez? Because coaches always become part of the story eventually, always. And suddenly people were asking whether he had become trapped, because managing Ronaldo is different from managing almost any player in football history. You are not simply coaching a striker, you are coaching a global institution. You are coaching records, you are coaching history, you are coaching millions of fans who expect him to play, millions more who expect him to score, millions more who believe removing him is football insanity. So what happens if the manager sees a problem? Can he act? Can he actually make the difficult decision? Or does the name on the shirt become bigger than the tactics on the board? Because critics started suggesting something uncomfortable, that Martinez wasn't making football decisions, he was making survival decisions. And whether that's fair or not almost didn't matter anymore, because perception in football spreads faster than facts, and perception was becoming dangerous. Then came another twist, a detail that made people stop and stare. Because some reports focused on a strange irony surrounding Ronaldo's availability. Questions emerged around decisions and timing that ultimately allowed him to play, and suddenly fans started framing the situation in the worst possible way. Imagine that, the idea that systems bend to keep the superstar on the pitch, only for the performance itself to become the story, only for the result to become embarrassment, only for critics to ask whether all of it had backfired. Because football fans love irony, and football can be cruel, very cruel. Then another statistic started circulating, one that felt almost impossible, one that people repeated because they couldn't believe it. Ronaldo, across 6 World Cups, no knockout stage goals. Read that again. Because regardless of context, regardless of teammates, regardless of circumstances, once a statistic enters public discussion, it develops a life of its own. Suddenly, people weren't talking about Congo anymore. Now they were talking about pressure, legacy, big moments, history. And that's where situations become dangerous for legends, because isolated failures disappear, patterns don't. Once fans think they see a pattern, every future moment becomes evidence. Every missed shot becomes proof. Every bad touch becomes confirmation. Every substitution becomes drama. And suddenly Ronaldo wasn't just playing football anymore. He was defending 20 years of mythology. Now, to be fair, there is a powerful counterargument, a very powerful one. Cristiano Ronaldo has survived this exact conversation before. People said he was finished years ago, then he scored. People said he was declining, then he broke another record. People said the story was ending, then somehow he created another chapter. He has done this over and over and over again, which is exactly why this feels different, because usually criticism follows poor numbers. This time criticism followed something harder to measure: body language, movement, decision-making. The feeling of watching the game, and feelings spread fast, much faster than statistics. Then came the image people couldn't stop talking about: Ronaldo walking off, alone. And around him, the noise kept growing. Messi, 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 Messi. For 20 years, football gave people a debate: 2 giants moving side by side, 2 careers refusing to separate. Every trophy answered by another trophy, every goal answered by another goal, every record attacked by another record. But football eventually takes something from everyone. Eventually it asks the same question, not who was greater, not who won more, but who changed faster than time itself. Because the most uncomfortable possibility here isn't that Ronaldo had a bad game, it isn't that Portugal drew, it isn't even that people mocked him. It's the possibility that football is approaching a moment many fans never wanted to imagine. The moment where the biggest question is no longer whether Cristiano Ronaldo can save Portugal, but whether Portugal eventually decides it needs saving from Cristiano Ronaldo.